Well, welcome back. One of the joys of hosting the Bolt Report is getting to talk to writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue, who joins me now. Esther, welcome. A dancer at London's Royal Opera House has caused outrage after unfurling a Palestinian flag at the end of a show and wrestling with someone to keep a hold of it. The performer is apparently a privately educated, self-proclaimed queer dance artist. Have a look at what happened. Esther, good on the bloke who tried to rip the flag out of the performer's hands. He should have carried on with it.
Yeah, queer dance artist. I'm pretty sure the unemployment queue has never heard of that one. It was at the end of a Verdi opera performance at the Royal Opera House, which I've been to many times. It's it's in Covent Garden, a really beautiful part of London. I think this is really disgraceful, and unsurprisingly, the Royal Opera House has come out saying, none of this was not sanctioned by the Royal Ballet or the Royal Opera. This is absolutely has nothing to do with us, and I can understand why, because if anyone's ever been to the Royal Opera House, it's kind of a jewel, a gem of London. It draws in all sorts of crowds from all walks of life, including Jewish crowds, I would imagine, because there's a high percentage of them in London. And so for them to enjoy the last show of this opera showing of 14 shows that were scheduled to see this is completely ridiculous. I mean, the Royal Opera House has never been known to be political in any sense of the word, and I'm pretty sure that queer dance artist is now also unemployed. But these are the kinds of things that you're seeing. I mean, I had a friend who was in McDonald's that saw an individual and actually recorded this individual saying, free Palestine, F the Jews. I mean, really just unsavory things in the middle of London. And this is following, over 2 years of seeing the streets of London almost every weekend being taken up by these pro-Palestine protests that often have, however small sections are, people basically shouting really blatantly anti-Semitic, hateful rhetoric. And so, unfortunately, this is on the rise here in Britain. A recent survey by teachers has shown that over 51% of Jewish teachers have actually been exposed to Nazi propaganda in their schools, and they feel like they can't really report it because nothing is being done. We've seen reports after reports showing that anti-Semitism and that kind of hatred is becoming normalized in Britain, from our universities to our healthcare service, and it's really quite frightening stuff. I'm not necessarily saying that this individual that was holding a Palestine flag is anti-Semitic, but we are seeing this kind of rhetoric coming from genuinely anti-Semitic people across British society, and it's really horrifying to see, unfortunately.
Now, while all of that is going on, of course, the government is obsessed with Islamophobia. But a UK poll has found that the government's plan for an official definition of Islamophobia would hand Nigel Farage's Reform Party a 100-seat majority. The proposal is so unpopular with working-class voters, pundits now believe Labor would almost certainly be obliterated at the polls if they go ahead with this definition of Islamophobia. Just quickly, what's all that about, and why is it so unpopular with so many people?
So the Labour Party's Angela Rayner has basically dug her heels into establishing a new definition of Islamophobia, which you kind of have to ask yourself, why do we need a new definition of Islamophobia? I mean, hate speech and rhetoric and any sort of bigotry has already been legislated for in current legislation, so you can't actually get away with blatant hatred. But she feels the need to come up with a new definition for Islamophobia, and so she's put together a working group to lead the charge to define it. Now, this working group isn't open to the public, so public feedback is not going to factor in to whatever definition they settle on, and what will be the legal definition. And she's hoping that the fact that it's being headed up by Dominic Grieve, who was a former Tory minister, shows bipartisan support and is going to massage the public. But the public aren't buying it, and I'm sure that's what's being reflected in the polls. Many people are concerned that this is just going to narrow what we can say in public. We already have Lucy Connolly serving 31 months in prison for a tweet that she deleted half an hour later. And Dominic Grieve doesn't exactly inspire confidence. I mean, back in the 2019 report, he said that talks of the grooming gangs in Britain, which I'm sure everyone has heard of because it's basically Britain's national shame the world over. He said that it showed anti-Islamic, hatred. And you just have to think, what planet are you living on? And this is the person that's supposed to provide us with a new definition of Islamophobia and provide, give us confidence that it's not going to restrict free speech on things that are really affecting this country. I don't think so. And again, this will be handing a very easy win to Nigel Farage's Reform, which has been leading in the polls quite consistently for the last few months now.
Esther, we've only got 1 minute left, but I want to finish with something nice. It's an incredible story, actually. The BBC Proms, it's a series of classical concerts held over 8 weeks in the UK and broadcast by the BBC. But a one-handed pianist has made his first appearance. Nicholas McCarthy has captured everyone's attention at the Royal Albert Hall in London. Have a look at this clip. Esther, just extraordinary. Probably the first thing the BBC have shown in a long while that I think everyone could get behind.
Absolutely, and the BBC does need some good press, because while they are in the press, they don't do very well in getting themselves good press. I was actually a bit skeptical when I heard of a one-handed pianist. I'm sure as many people were, but he's brilliant, Nicholas McCarthy. I mean, he was sharing a story about how when he tried to take lessons as a kid, he faced obviously a bit of resistance because he only had one hand, but he kept persisting. And I think this is a very inspiring, very
just extraordinary,
uplifting.
Absolutely inspiring. Esther, I've got to leave it there. We've run out of time, but thanks for joining me tonight.